How many of you have a message that you want to share? How many of you have a message? Oh, wow, okay. Yes, everyone. How many of you have a desire to impact the world in some way? All of us in the room. Awesome. And how many of you want to write a book? Yes? Yeah, okay, there we go. There we go. So, fabulous. I came to the right room. Awesome. So this year has been really exciting because I, in true overachiever fashion, crossed my 52nd country, and woo, 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 and it was Portugal. Anybody have been to Portugal? Yeah? Oh, wow, a lot of people in this room. Oh, that's right, that's right. Katerina and I were in Portugal together. And Ajit and I had our 8th ceremony at Burning Man. Yes, number 8. Number 8, yes. Kian in the back was like, yep, I was there. And so dancing, of course, is my jam. So 24K, thank you very much. That's my, I kind of contributed to that. But then grit, everyone's got grit. And so we're going to be talking about that today. Actually, everyone is getting a book of my, copy of my best-selling book, Emotional Grit. And really, we're going to be talking about the emotional grit of our minds, okay? Because a lot of times, it's not really the how. It's the why. 80% of us, especially us women, we kind of live here. How many of you have a book that's kind of halfway or semi-done, or a course or a message or a video or something that you're just kind of looming over? All right, we're going to crush that today. Is that okay? I'm going to try to do my best to kind of contain it in the, where's my timer? Okay, in the hour that I have. But are you guys good with that? Can we agree to that? Okay, crushing that. Because if we drop into here, just like Amplified Yoga had us do like this thing. How many of you were doing this thing this morning? It was like the ong and the, okay, we were getting our creative juices flowing because it starts here. But most of us live here. And I'll tell you a few stories how I lived here. Of course, as a medical professional for quite some time, I lived here for a very, very long time. So, what to expect? All right, well, before we get there, I don't know if Jason Goldberg's in the room. So, there he is. I don't know if you guys knew this, but he actually isn't a speaker and an author. That's kind of like his side gig. This is how he really shines in the world. He is a Hindu rabbi. So, for our 6th ceremony, he did this actually at the comfort of our own home. Thank you for that, Jason. Are you getting hired? Is it okay to get the secrets out of the back? Cool. Okay. Awesome. Your next book. So Jason and I actually, we were at, is there some, am I moving? Okay, sorry guys. Jason and I, we were actually at EverCoach Summit last year, and we were writing our books and getting it all ready. So I had to give you a shout out. Awesome. Okay, so what a book is going to do for you, if you guys are kind of figuring out if this is kind of the right message that you want to share with the world, if it's your time. So what a book really does is it becomes the ethos of your business, right? How many know that, feel that, understand that? Like, this is like the big behemoth of what that business ecosystem looks like. So that's number 1. Okay, number 2, basically, we're going to go back to, okay. So in order to actually, Am I moving a lot? Sorry, is this going to be, yeah? Do you want to help me with the mic? Are we good? Or is that bothersome for you guys? Okay, cool, because I can hear it. So anyways, so your book is basically like your business, right? And that's why it's so important. But we all have these messages. We all have these stories that we want to share. But we can share them in so many different ways. And when it becomes that big, then we get into our minds. And when we get into our minds, then we fail to execute because it's just so big. How many of us feel that? Yeah. So we're going to break it down because it's actually quite simple. And what Ajit was referring to earlier. Now, if you can take a look at when the dates of those two books, my two babies, my first baby with myself and this new baby with Ajit, the dates are the same. A year ago. And like I said, honestly, this was not planned. We were actually going through this on Amazon to see like our reviews and stuff yesterday. And then we noticed that the dates are a year apart. So you guys, if you have a message, you can write 2 books. Don't be an overachiever like me, but you can write 2 books in a year. Like, this is insane. This is crazy. So Jason, your next book is going to be out when? Well, after this, maybe. So how many of you feel that? Yes? Possibly, kind of, sort of? Okay, so keep that in the back of your head. But you can actually create a movement with your books if that is the desire. You can create a community with your books if that's the desire. And maybe you'll find out that maybe writing a book isn't the thing for you, and that's okay too, okay? So we'll figure out whatever works for you, but we're going to actually cut through some of those corners. Cool? Are we here? Awesome. Okay. So your mind on drugs, I'm just kidding. Your mind when we have so many things going on in our heads. So this idea that, oh, well, you know, I think I need to do more research. I had a conversation. I've had so many conversations with some of you here in the room. I've worked with some of you in the room around your message, around your books, and it's all the same. This, if you take anything out of this presentation today, this is probably the number one thing, because you guys, if we are clear on the why, the how just flows. And most of the time, if we live in our head, that message is going to just be stuck here. So with that amplified yoga, okay, I'm going to do some of these anchors and tools so that at home you can kind of get your strategies and tools going, because by the end of this presentation, you're not only going to know some of the biggest challenges that you're going to come across. I'm going to talk about 7, okay? Then we're going to come up with an outline that you can actually take home, because once we get rid of all of this stuff, then we can actually focus on what's important, which is your message, right? Because how many of you have opened up does anybody have the copy of the Book of Coaching in front of them? Okay, well, if you guys have seen the dedication page, can anybody tell me what's on that dedication page that I wrote? Yes.
About building human potential.
You are all elevators. Yes, thank you, love. You are all elevators of human potential. You heard that this morning at Amplified Yoga. But that is your responsibility. So if you can actually just breathe that in for a second. You are all elevators of human potential. And yet our minds of all of that stuff, is holding you back in some way. It's not good enough. I'm going to get judged. No one's going to buy it. No one's going to like it. It's like weighing me down already. So let's get over that, shall we? Okay. All right. In the words of Tina Fey. All right, let's do it. So maybe the biggest thing is you're not meant to write a book. You're just not meant to write a book. And I'm not going to crush anyone's dreams, okay? I'm all about the inspiration and everything, but I want to keep it real. I'm from Chicago, born and raised there. Any Chicagoans in the house? Like grit, sass, resilience. I was born in the city, okay? So I bring a lot of that flair into Ajit, who is, from Jaipur, from India. And so recognizing the strength in that is really powerful, right? We talked a lot about power yesterday. So I'm going to give you a story, and this is from one of my clients. We're going to change her name, but Maybell. And Maybell was going through a lot of different transitions in her life, right? We all go through transitions, and a lot of times we teach the stories, that we need to learn ourselves, yeah? So, okay, Maybell was one of those. Her kids were out to college. She had just got through with her 10-year relationship. She was married, and so on and so forth. She was starting to connect with people. So Maybell came to me and was like, okay, let's figure this out, because I generally work with a lot of executives and leaders, and so all these, powerhouse people. And Maybell's like, I think I want to share my message with the world. Well, when we actually put aside a structure to the writing process, Maybelle kept falling short, and she wasn't actually doing the work. How many of us have clients like that? You're like, come on, I'm trying to help you. But what was the real problem was that it wasn't that she didn't want to get her message out. What she actually enjoyed doing, so her real why, was that whenever she would go out and she would network, she was a big extrovert, she would start to interview people. And she would also record her interviews. Like, it would be in a room like this, and she would just hit the record button, and she would just have all of these little snippets of interviewing people all over the world. Well, guess what? She really didn't want to write the book. There was another way of getting it out. You guys feel me? There was another way of getting it out. But she was so stuck because she saw this person and everybody around her in her community, what? They had a book. So she's like, okay, I want to be in the book team. I want to be in that book community. But for her, what made more sense was she's a bold, vivacious woman. And for her, she needed to do her own show. And so we have to figure out this. Like I said, the 80-20 rule, we are all familiar with that. It's this. And so you want to have the self-compassion. Don't judge yourself on, oh my gosh, if that changes, and this just sounds so easy. Well, we're going to break it down, right? Because, of course, a lot of the things that we are generally doing, if it's easy, why are we going to do it anyways, right? We've got to make it so heady and complicated because that's who we are. It reminds me of dental school. Okay, so what's your plan B? What's your plan B? If it's not the book, maybe it is a podcast. Maybe it is those articles that you've been writing, those blogs that you've been writing. Perhaps it's constructing it in a way where it's vlogging. Vlogging is like the biggest thing since sliced bread. Actually, I don't even do bread, but still. I mean, so there are a lot of different ways that you can get your message out there. And we can talk about the business process that goes with it. But once you get clear on your why, the how is just easy. All right. So number 6, procrastination. All right. So I hear this all the time. Okay, we're going to write a book, and we're going to do this together, and we're just going to get started, and I just need to do research. So I'm going to do research about the topic, about my competitors, right? You guys have this all in your head, and then you go, and guess what happens? Facebook. And then 3 hours later, Facebook of another author. 3 hours later, Instagram, the stories, YouTube, and we never get it done. We never get it done because we're doing the Facebook rabbit hole. So you want to be able to set up time for mass productivity, okay? What are some of the things that you can do? Well, when you have your writing days, as a coach, we have so many different things, right? How many of you feel that? It's like onboarding, writing content, going live, figuring out your client situation, and then the writing part, right? It's crazy. It's crazy. And then add if you guys have families and things like that, and then even more if you're still working. How many of you are doing this and you guys have a full-time job? Yeah. So it's tough. So your time can be your best friend. So if you don't have more than an hour, then you're not going to figure out and spend so much time about the headlines or the chapter details. Does that make sense? Say no to Wi-Fi when you're writing. And for even the most multitasking women in the world, there's all this brain research out there. And of course, Ajit was talking about how we optimize our brains. It's, that's kind of like what we have, but that's our own rituals. This is like what we do to channel that creativity. Kind of like amplified yoga, right? We're getting this? Cool. Can we all do this? Like, yeah, okay. There we go. I kind of feel good. We're just getting the juju right over here. Okay. So when you're writing, and I was going to add some of these productivity pieces where there are some apps where it actually turns off your phones. It turns off your browser so you can't check, the dopamine trigger doesn't hit, and you can't check your emails or anything like that. So there's so many of those. I'm not going to go into that today, but it exists. And if you have an issue with that, let's get it together, okay? All right. Okay, so, and in the famous words of Mark Twain, number 5, this is a huge one. So it's kind of why it took me about 2 years to launch Emotional Grit. And Emotional Grit was really as a response, as a solution to what was going on in the world. A lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of stress. We were all right here, and I was working with a bunch of leaders, and of course we had an election last year, and emotional intelligence could have probably helped with that. So it was perfect timing. But as I was writing, and it took me to 30 countries, and I was interviewing, but I kept interviewing people. Because when I was in my hotel room in Singapore, I had this moment. And it's like one of those moments where I got my chapters back from my 4th editor because the first one wasn't good enough. The second one wasn't good enough. The third one, who was like a New York Times, like one of those people, she wasn't good enough. And so this actually arose. And I was like sobbing and crying. And one of those like heaving, ugly, ugly cries, right? That happens. You feel me? Yeah. Where, what if it fails? The heck? I just put away my dental business. I walked away. I've done this research, and the ego starts to rise. And guess what? That chapter was on the ego. It's chapter 8 in your book, so you guys have a copy of it. The ego was rising. Well, what does that say about me? Am I defined by that? So a lot of those messages are going to come up, but this is a reality, right? So when in doubt, we've got to cultivate our positive juju because we all have it. You've got people in this room. That's what this weekend is about. So creating your mantras, your positive affirmations, your music, we're talking rituals. We're talking about your game plan. Some of you are going to talk about this tomorrow, Sunday. This is so important. It's huge. Your affirmation, your mantras, all of that. Or we can, channel this and do the Carlton because dancing makes everything easy. So, what if you are lost about your what or your why? Because what if you start out with, yes, I'm going to talk about this topic, and this topic's going to be, it's about meditation and revolutionizing the way we do meditation, and then all of a sudden, you get another idea. But I really want to talk about meditation, and it's going to revolutionize the world, and I'm not feeling it here, but I've already committed to it. And you put the book down. And then you keep putting the book down, and it never gets written. How many of us have gone through that or is going through that right now? It's just, and it's tearing you up, and you're kind of dancing because you don't know if, well, I stayed committed, so if I don't commit to this, does that mean I'm a failure? Or if maybe I'm not doing my research, or maybe I'm just talking to the wrong people. So it's all of these different things that are going on in your mind, right? So I've got a little mantra for you guys. Are you guys open to that stuff? Okay, cool. And if you guys were in Amplified Yoga, you would kind of understand how important this is. So everyone stand up. So way to conquer this. And from our very good friend at Burning Man, okay, we're going to transport us all back to the wondrous land of magic and creativity. Put your hands over your heart. Because here, where we live half the time, here to think that everyone's judging us, or our work's not good enough, our work's not important, who's going to read it. Here does not serve us, but we have the best juju that comes from our heart, right? So, from our wise words of a dear friend of ours who led this workshop, I'm going to pass this on to you, and hopefully you can pass this on to your clients. But you want to just feel the beat. So feel the beat of your heart. Go ahead and tap it. Feel the beat of your heart. And then you want to just ride the wave. Can we do this? Feel the beat and ride the wave. So every time we feel like we need to control something, every time we feel like it's not going to our expectations, every time we can feel the beat and ride the wave. Can we turn to a partner and do this? Feel the beat and ride the wave. Feel the beat and ride the wave. Feel the beat and surrender control. Allow yourself to get organized and ride the wave. How does that feel? Yes. All right, let's have everyone sit down. Because when we do that, we can remind ourselves that the message is coming from here, not here. And we all are superhuman, amazing elevators of human potential people. That of course we're going to have deadlines. Of course we're going to stick to them. But guess what? You're going to have compassion when it doesn't go that way, right? Yes? Okay, yeah. And we're going to feel the beat and ride the wave. So, another reminder for us, right? Because then the how becomes super easy. Now, preparedness. What does that mean? What does that mean? Many of us say, well, I want to write a book. And you know what? Because we're badasses, we tend to kind of say, well, you know, it's pretty easy. I don't really need structure. I'm going to be in the flow. And for a lot of us, we're constantly in flow, right? If it feels right, we're just going to write. And so there is a little bit of structure that we need to train ourselves on. Otherwise, what are we going to run into? Procrastination, or what we call writer's block, which is absolute horseshit, okay? It doesn't exist, because writer's block exists if you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to write here because I'm feeling into it, but we don't have the structure of what that looks like. So you're thinking like, okay, I'm going to write, but then we're not in the zone. We don't have our mantras. We don't have our positive juju. So I'm going to, is Matt in the room? Matt is in the room. Hey, Matt, say hi to everyone. Say hi to Matt. So Matt, we kind of wrote your book in 10 days. We were in Thailand with your family. And Matt's work ethic was so, and Jason talks about work ethic, but his commitment and his intentions to making sure, because Matt, you have another career. His book is on financial abundance and kind of revolutionizing the financial industry. And so with Matt, he didn't really have much time. He's got a daughter, he's got a wife, he brought them to Thailand, and so we needed to create parameters that every single day we were going to get some shit done, right? Okay, so your intentions were so strong that every day you came in running with your morning rituals on the beach, like whatever got you into your flow. You had the support. I mean, a lot of times what limits us is who wants to sit at a screen for 10 hours just writing by ourselves? Like coaching, if you've got your own practice, it's already a lonely world, right? And so what happens is then it kind of isolates you. And then, of course, all of those crazy, ants start growing in our head about the imposter syndrome. It's not good enough. I'm not good enough, and all those things. So if you are in a supportive environment, which we all were there to kind of hold that space for you, but that's kind of where it all flies, right? Because a lot of times if we're by ourselves, we're more judgmental. How many feel that way? Like we're more self-critical, I should say. And we lose the compassion for ourselves because of course, our high expectations. But when you have this ability, you're going to write every single day, and you have your feel the beat, ride the wave. You've got that mantra, right? So it will actually train your brain for maximum productivity, even if you have 20 minutes. How did that work for you, Matt? Well, your book is done, so that's a good thing. A lot of us don't really have a well of inspiration. What is our well of inspiration? Facebook. The reel of everybody else's books that are coming out, and why isn't mine coming out? How many of you have had that, experienced that? Yeah. So being able to have like a spreadsheet, Evernote is a great one for this. We did this with the book of coaching because this was a collaborative effort with Ajit and I, and of course with our crazy schedules. But be committed to creating a well of creativity for you. I'm not just saying in your body, that's one, and in your mind, but also what you see, because a lot of times that will draw inspiration for you to, even if you have 5 minutes a day to write. Does that sound good? Cool. So the one main reason why we hold ourselves back is the pain, right? It's too scary. Most of us are afraid of our bigness. So if we write this book, then, oh my gosh, I have this really humongous responsibility. And we make it so big, like it's so gigantic, that we can't even get our hands around it because it's just so big. This is the next level of you. This is your next chapter. And what's that going to look like? Number 2. So who's a recovering perfectionist in the house? Because I am too. All right. We're part of the Perfectionist Anonymous Club. I almost wanted to start that when I was in dental school. I mean, can you imagine? I used to work in millimeters, and I was just not a general dentist. I was a cosmetic dentist. So we were like looking at everyone's smiles to a T. And don't worry, I won't look at your smiles. I'm past that now. It kills creativity. It kills creativity. For those of you who were talking to me about your books, get over yourself. Your book is so amazing already. Your message, the story, everything, it's amazing. Stand up. Let's stand up. Let's turn to our partner. Tell your partner, get over yourself. Get over yourself. It kills creativity. All right. That's right. Let's bring it back down. How does it feel to get that out? Wow. Yes. That will be the destroyer of your work. The amount that you check things, the amount that you keep looking and researching and rereading and rereading. It's okay for mistakes and content and all of that, but you guys get what I'm talking about. Because this is something that holds everyone back, because then what do? You read somebody else's work and you compare it to yours. Get over yourself. Well, here are some strategies to help you get there, because what happens when we're here? Okay. We are in our left brain. In Emotional Grow, we talk a lot about human performance, brain dynamics, and human dynamics, but really understanding the left and the right brain. If we are living in our left brain, and I did this for a while, guys. I was a doctor. Doctors in the house. I see you, Marie, Kian. We are trained to be like robots. You're analytical, you're process-oriented. If you're doing a research book, I mean, you want to make sure that it shines, right? Somebody said the other day, well, you know, I want to make sure that I have enough research to back up and all these things. And I said, well, who's your audience? And she said, well, they're women. I said, are they the scientists that you're trying to get the stuff from? No, those guys aren't even going to read your book. Come on. We have to get into our right brain. So, diagnosis, more amplified yoga. I mean, let's get you into rituals that will cultivate that positive juju. And you guys, like, this is all fun and games, but really, there's some real stuff to this. Because if we get more into, you know, what that guy was doing this morning, like the hips moving, this kind of feels good. I did hula hooping, dancing. Oh, there's hula hoops there for you guys to try. I did that, like, all in high school, by the way. But dancing, you know, what are things that are going to elevate this creativity? Building, I mean, getting out of your head. And how many times did we do this in Thailand, Matt, where, you know, you were starting to, you know, the judgments were starting to creep up again, and then we said, nope, we're taking a break. See you at 4 p.m. And go to the beach and do whatever. So allow yourself that time. If the creativity isn't flowing, if you're getting back into your left brain, right, what are we doing? Feel the beat and ride the wave. You all might have your own structure for this. This is not the end-all, be-all. I'm trying to do my best to kind of give you some of the major strategies that I see that can work. But you guys might have your own. Yoga, journaling. The point is your awareness, right? A lot of times we don't really understand why we're doing something, but it's the awareness. So, number one. I think we've already talked about this again and again, right? You are going to be your biggest block. You are going to be your biggest block. How does that feel? I mean, it sounds easy enough, right? So every single writer, the person right next to you, the person behind you, your client, like this is the creative journey and the creative process of every single writer. You are going to have those bad days. You are going to ask, is this good enough? You are going to ask, you're going to doubt yourself. You're going to start going through this process. But I want you to remember a few things, of course. Hopefully you remember more from this presentation. But dropping down here instead of here, really understanding and having your own awareness. And we're going to talk about the grit process because really the grit is the tenacity, right? It's in the research that I did for, a bazillion years, and Angela Duckworth talks about it a lot, is that's the single most characteristic of babies and leaders that will define how they are going to share their message in the world. It's their grit. So it is the stories of resilience. It is the stories of how fast can you rise and get up. But you already know all of that. So why am I repeating it? So that you can get it in your DNA, right? All right. So now we're actually going to practice this. Are you guys good with that? Can we? All right, cool. So crap makes good fertilizer. And if not, you can always listen to Larry David. He is like my spirit animal. Any Curb fans in the house? Anybody? Yeah, baby. It's starting again in 10 days. Okay. So, part 2. Can we get some, yes, you guys are all going to get some handouts. We've got handouts passing out right now. And I want you guys to get into groups of 3. Just kind of change your, turn to one another. 2 or 3, it's totally fine. For the sake of time, we've got some good time on this. Because we are going to break it down. Now, can I just share one thing before we get started? Before we get super excited with our exercise, whether you are writing a book, we're going to do the clapping thing. Whether you are writing a book, creating a video message, creating a product like your course, this is pretty much the same flow. You feel me? Are we all on the same page? Okay. All right. So, the truth of it all, guess what, guys? It's already here. We've already talked about that. We're going to now pull it out of you. Yeah? Yeah. Cool. All right. So, the first question. Now, the first 4 of these questions should not take you very long to do at all. The first question, but we're going to go question by question, okay? So I'm going to time you guys because this is going to work really well. Otherwise, we're going to get chatty and we're going to do all of that, which I really want you guys to connect, but I really want you guys to go home with something tangible. Is that cool? Is that fair? Okay, cool. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes to write down your message, okay? And then 2 minutes to share that as total, so 4 minutes for this first question, with your group. Is that fair? Only question number 1, overachievers. Only question number 1. Do not do it all. You're not going to get any prizes. All right, so what is your message about? And Dan, we don't need to do Jeopardy like music, but some sort of music, that would be great. Thank you. So what is your message about? Very simple. For instance, my message for Emotional Grit was really about emotional fitness. What is your message that you want to share with the world? Let's do question number 2. Are we ready for question number 2? Okay, this is even simpler. This should be very easy. Who is your audience? Like, I want to know, what do they wear? What's their hair color? Are they male or female? What's their age group? What do they like? What do they dislike? I want to know who your audience, that your message is for. Cool? Understand? Awesome. Write down as much as you can and be as specific as possible. This will be very fast. This will be about 2 minutes again, and then just get in your groups and share that. All right, Maestro Dan. Thank you. Let's bring it back. And this one should have been relatively easy for myself. The Emotional Grit was for leaders, founders, and executives. All right, let's clap. Clap once if you can hear me. Clap twice. Great, thank you. All right, so now question number 3. Here's where it gets interesting. The why. The why. So why does this message need to be written? I want you to think about this. Why? What's the absolute why? Who will it benefit? Okay, because that's another way of answering the why, to get you to think who the why or what the why is for. And what steps will they need in order to get there? Okay? So, for example, if you take the Emotional Grit book, for example, the why was there needed to be a new type of leadership, right? Everything was going batshit crazy. We needed to have more calling for understanding what emotions are and how it plays a role in our everyday lives, whether you're a leader or whether you are a mom of 2, right? So very easy, simple why, okay? And of course, the dilemma was the need for more human connection because we're always on our, devices. And then the solution was Emotional Grit. So do you see how it's laid out very clearly? And get over yourself. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is just an exercise. Okay? So let's pretend this has nothing to do with any message or anything that you're writing. Let's just talk about the why. Okay? And I'm going to give you, let's see, for the sake of, because I want us to finish this. So let's do this really quickly. We'll do 2 minutes for this, okay? 2 minutes just so that we can get you started. Is that fair? Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, so that should be, how's everyone doing? Pretty good, right? Yeah, pretty straightforward. Okay, awesome. So, number 4, because I know you guys are dying to share this with your groups, but let's be patient for just a little bit. So, and did everybody get one of these? Yes? Okay, cool. Because if not, this is also going to be in your membership area as well. I think we have some more handouts in the back for those people that came in later. So number 4, so we have our why, okay? So we have our why. Now I just gave you some ideas as to how to develop that why. Who will it benefit? And let's think about some of those steps, right, that they need in order to get to that result. So this was kind of foreshadowing the next question. If you didn't think of those steps, what I want you to do is, number 4, identify now. So identify what are the top 3 to 4 ideas, okay? The top 3 to 4 big ideas that your audience will learn or take away from this massive topic, okay? Just the big points. We don't have to get super, super crazy about this. What do you want your audience to walk away with from the big idea? Big idea, your top 3 bullet points. Remember how we were writing essays in school? You had the 3 supportive facts. So it basically is kind of similar to that structure. If we think about it, we're just making it super simple that you just want your audience to walk away with. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes for this. And let's just write that down. And let's not spend too much time here. The best stuff is when you just start writing down the first few things that come to mind. Is that fair? Okay? All right. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes for this as well. How is that? Good. Doable, right? Anyone got stuck a little bit? That's okay if you did. It's totally fine. But this is meant to just take you through the easiest way to just dive into whatever you're creating, okay? So as we get into questions 5 and 6, these are the last 2, and this is just for context, okay? So number 5, you've got your main principles of the book. So for instance, in Emotional Grit, you'll see that even in the table of contents, if you open it up, you'll basically see that the first section, it talks about the problem. It talks about the why, right? We need for more compassion and empathy. And then it breaks down what grit actually stands for and the process. So, everybody follow? Right? So now you can actually look at any book or any program. You guys all have this in your Mind Valley Academy, access. You can look at any program and you can actually see that there is a structure to all of these things, okay? That there are some big ideas, and then we're just breaking down those big ideas. So it is not this big behemoth anymore. All right. So, question number 5. Now, from those 3 or 4 main ideas, so from here, okay, from these big, big, big ideas, I want you to just take 1 minute to use one of those main ideas. So in this instance, I'm going to take grow, because that's easy. Grow is easy for this example. But let's take that and break it down. So from that, what I want you to do is I want you to write down the 3 benefits. And how will you get your audience to that desired outcome? Without thinking about it too hard, what are some of the things that will come up to get the audience member to understand more about your message on grow? Does that make sense? Okay. All right, can we get some music going? We'll just take a minute, and I'm going to, just for context and examples, I'm going to share with you what we did for this. So I want you to think about the topic that you're selecting. Why is that important? For instance, why is grow important? What do I want you guys to get out of understanding what the principle of grow is? It's really understanding your awareness. Why is awareness important? How is it showing up in your day-to-day lives? How it's showing up in your society? How's it showing up in your businesses? And then how can we be more aware? How can we cultivate grow in our business practices and ourselves? Does that make sense? So these are the 3 ways of having you come up with the structure for that idea or step. Okay, and I'll shut up. Okay. And I can see that we are running out of time. So I'm going to bring your awareness to our last question. And this is something that you can actually do at home. So I know we've got the creative juju. You guys are like all in it, like on the floor, sprawled out, ready to write your books. And we can just cancel the rest of the day. We can go out in the foyer and start writing. So I'm glad we kind of cultivated that. But I want you guys to be ready for Michael, who's next. So the last question, okay, is what actually can you use to take from principle number 5, right? So from step 5, question 5, which is all on your sheet, how can you support that idea? Is it a story? Is it research? Is it data? Is it an interview? Or is it specific examples? And, you know, in emotional grit, you'll see in the back there's a bunch of exercises. And also it's supported by a bunch of stories of resilience as well. So you can use whichever way you want to craft that message that's going to be tangible for the audience, right? You're teaching them a principle, you're giving them an idea, you're giving them an example. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. How do you feel about that? Yeah? That wasn't like super strong. Yeah? Okay, all right. So we kind of did this last, 20 minutes to really start pulling that stuff out of you, right? Because all of the crazy stuff, remember, where is it? Where is it? It's right here. It's here. Okay, and we've got to drop to, yes, here. So guess what, guys? Woo, woo! Can we stand up and celebrate? And there are 6 parts, so if you guys want to take a photo of this before we end with our favorite song, Roar, from Katy Perry. The 6 elements of what you are creating in any structure, any framework, any product, any course is right here. You have this. This, my dear, for those of you creative human beings and flow makers who are like, I just write from what I'm feeling, and you hated this process because it was painstaking, please use this. This will be your guide to just keep you thinking about some of those examples.